I fucking stink. I haven't slept, I haven't washed, My pits still smell like 6 hours ago. Like dancing, like skin, like tequila, like 1.5 pills. I should have stopped at 1. You stink, she says. Careful as she kisses my cheek so as not to scuff up her makeup, and she's not wrong. I can still smell the ketamine up my nose. Smell of the queers dancing around me, shirts off, wet. All of us wet from ourselves, from each other, the ceiling, our foreheads, our shorts, our dicks. I fucking stink of the rave. Go clean yourself up. She irons out a crease out of the ugly purple dress that he's making her wear, and she tells me she's glad I could make it. Their bathroom smells like lavender and mint. It's always lavender in places like this. Bathrooms like this with reed diffusers and no air freshener sprays. There's still glitter around my eyes and a little bit of lipstick on my chin from that person with the wig that looked so dry it made my teeth hurt. But she felt good when she was inside me. I splashed some water on my face and remember watching my mum getting baptised. Remember how I got a little hard looking at the priest because he kind of reminded me of Andrew Scott. How I'd put the hymn book on my lap to cover it up as I imagined him telling me how bad I'd been and how I was going to hell and how he'd demand that I'd get naked so that... They're playing Kylie outside. That's got to be an appropriation of some kind. Playing Kylie at a party full of straight middle-aged churchgoers. I peer out the window and I see him. Him. What this was all for. All those weeks of her going to classes and learning Bible verses, all for him. I watch him laughing in the garden with some other person who probably smells like fabric softener and too many hours spent in a bank. They're drinking beer, but it kind of looks like piss, and I get a little tingle at my dick at the thought of them urinating on me. My mum appears behind him. Purple dress does nothing for her complexion, and she rubs his back and whispers something in his ear. I touch the semi that's pushing against the fabric of my underwear, and I rub the pre-cum around my foreskin, close my eyes, lift my fingers up to my nose and slip them into my mouth, tasting every stranger from last night. How we teased one another. Over that monotonous space, our hair stuck to our bodies. And how we smiled. There. So fucking euphoric. I could see it in their eyes, smiling. Me smiling at them and them smiling at nothing. Eyes closing, the techno stealing them away. Hips moving together in some basement in Tottenham. Ecstasy tingling down to our fingertips, thinking we are so much more beautiful here. Then the door opens and I snap out of it, feeling filthy again against the glossy tiles, the immaculate sink and the citrusy toilet, and he stands at the doorway, bigger than me, but that's only because I haven't eaten since yesterday morning. Not today, he says, not making eye contact. I'd like you to leave. I swallow the semen on my tongue and imagine it's his. I said I'd pop round, show my face, say my congratulations, thank you. I could try, I think. I could try. Make a move. These religious people, they have a reputation. I could get naked. I could tempt him. Be the apple to his Eve. My mum, she can do better after all. She deserves more. I can show you the door now. His eyes flick towards my boner, and then my eyes, and I realise I don't think he's ever properly looked at me before. Probably too afraid of what he'd see or smell. I wonder what he smells, what he thinks, whether he'll spend the rest of his day trying to claw back my scent, trying to figure out what it is. So I brush past him in the doorway, brushing my shoulder against him in the hopes that it'll leave some kind of aroma on his hairy forearm for later inspection. But he isn't following me, so I don't go the way he wants. I turn instead and head towards the garden. He is probably knocking one out up there. Knocking one out over his stepson-to-be. One got the shine, one got the shine. I trip over a weed and it's really embarrassing, but everyone notices because I make a noise and I realise how much I love attention. And I notice this woman cover up her nose with a Moroccan scarf. And my mum walks up towards me, her eyes saying, "You can't let him see you here." And she's pleading, with her fingernails digging into my skin. And I consider the cocaine hasn't quite worn off yet because I can't feel a thing, which is refreshing because I have tried everything to feel nothing. I make eyes with a man across the way, smoking a cigarette, and I recognise him from my dad's funeral, so I push my mum out of the way and ask him for a fag. His nostrils flare and I wonder if he can place it. I wonder if any of them can place it. If they can smell the concrete underground, the vibrating, the beat, the power. Because their power, it smells like lavender. But mine smells like the hidden, the invisible. The cocaine and the methadone, the cigarettes and the vomit, the piss and the shit, the water keeping me fresh. He hands me a cigarette and flicks his lighter. I put the fag in my mouth, let my lips sink around the paper before I lean into his flame, watching the embers take form. He looks like he wants to say something, but I don't care to listen. I get distracted by my soon-to-be stepfather standing at the doorway to the garden. He is wiping his wet hands on his Gap jeans. He definitely had a wank. A woman makes a noise, and I turn around to see the horrified look on her face before I feel the warmth of the blood pouring from my nose. It starts dripping on my shirt. So I think, fuck it, and wipe my nose with my sleeve because the damage is already done. And it feels like I am pulling my brains out as I slide the cloth along my nostril, but it turns out it's just a blood clot. I hold it up for everyone to see like it's show and tell, and the woman vomits, which I think is pathetic, so I giggle, and then I start coughing, so I take a toke of my cigarette and the coughing stops. I take my shirt off because it's a little unsightly now, and at least I still have the mesh bodysuit underneath, which I totally understand isn't quite the vibe of the gathering, but at least it shows my personality. Can you just leave, please? His voice takes me by surprise and I turn around to see my mum crying. Now, is she crying at me, or because that woman has just vomited all over her geraniums, and if there's one thing my mum loves, it's her geraniums? The bleeding has stopped now, so I take up the shirt and scrunch it up in my hands. Maybe I'll frame it. Put it in an exhibition. I'll title it, "The Day I Ruined My Mum's Engagement Party," and I think of how I could make a whole series off of it. Pieces of clothing that I wore to different family functions. The trousers I wore to her baptism, which I came in, and the tie I wore to my dad's funeral, which I cried in, and the shirts that I bled in at her engagement party, like a patchwork quilt of my destruction. "You are not welcome here," he says. and I feel the congregation go silent. The man from my dad's funeral flicks his cigarette into an ashtray. The woman who vomited is sitting in the shade drinking from a single-use plastic bottle of water. And another woman with a terrible orange perm is rubbing her back. I realise that I have never wanted to be naked so desperately. To be naked with the strangers from last night. The ones I danced with, because we danced so close I could feel them in my pores. Like part of my fabric, my DNA. Because we hadn't just danced. We had existed together as one. Under the city, under our city, finally ours in the confines of the underground. Finding ourselves where we could be naked and alone in control. Hips moving, throats moaning. I got fucked by a drag queen last night. I'll say to him and whoever else is listening, which judging by the perturbed faces is everyone. I didn't quite catch her name, but she came inside me and I haven't had the chance to shit her out yet. I don't know why I say it. My mum closes her eyes. I wonder what she sees. I wonder if she sees the child she wanted. The one with his father's tenderness and her sense of humour. Her wisecracks and his jazzy singing voice. The child who smells like lavender or mint. The one who'd make a friend smile and make her deceased husband proud. The child who could sit in her new husband's armchair, who could sit and exist within her new husband's furniture without making a fuss. Who'd sit and smile and thank him for all the stability he offers my mother. And I see her squeeze his hand the same way she used to do my knee. Like she did that night we found him swinging from the living room light, or that one time I told her I got hemorrhoids after this Italian boy fingered me. The way that she would squeeze my knee and tell me it would be okay, she's now squeezing his hand. You're not welcome here. I'm going to ask you one more time to leave my house. He's staring me out, trying to not drop his gaze in case he catches a glimpse of my nipple that's poking through one of the holes in the mesh. And it's at that moment I feel everyone take a few steps away from me. Like I'm Moses. And they're the sea, or like they're a classroom full of children and I'm holding them all at knife point. And it's at that moment I realise I've never wanted to smell so fucking bad. As I watch my mum loosen her grip on his hand, I realise I've never wanted to feel so fucking repulsive. To make an old Christian woman vomit all over my mum's favourite plant. As I watch as his fists clench, I realise I've never wanted to be so repugnant and powerful. Because in their space, I'm a bad smell, but in mine I am licked and kissed and adored because I am a perfume. But in theirs, I am beaten and pleading and punctured and begging to be revolting and alive. You're not allowed to play Kylie fucking Minogue. The words come out a little louder than I anticipated, so I flick my cigarette onto the perfectly mown lawn just to fully commit to the statement. It's at that moment that I think about all the parties of darkness that must be taking place all over the city right now. All the people that don't want to go to sleep, because sleeping means having to wake up again. And you know the purple doesn't suit you. My mum looks down at her dress and someone gasps. It's the woman with the perm. I look at the woman who vomited and say, that was really embarrassing for you. I walk past my mum and the man she's going to marry at some point next year. I walk past them and I hear them hold their breath. I keep walking. I keep walking until I'm somewhere I've never heard of before, and I keep walking until I hear people singing Donna Summer from the basement of a townhouse. I knock on the door 3 times and then ring the doorbell because I figured they might not hear. I wipe my eyes because if they think I've been crying, they might think I'm sad, and no one wants a sad boy at their after party. A woman with thick black eyeliner and huge pupils clumsily opens the door. Fuck me, I thought you were going to be the landlord. I smile as Donna Summer mixes effortlessly into Kylie and asks, would it be okay if I joined?